Hey everyone. Uh, this time around for this video, I decided to fast forward through the entire thing and do the audio after while I watch the painting process. So as you can see, I'm already going ahead. So let's start now. So right now I'm just blocking in using just grays, tones of grays, no colors yet. And the piece this time is called Curious Drake. He's got a nice smile, Pillsbury Doughboy kind of. Um, and he's supposed to be the adult version of this guy, um, who is the Hotspark hatchling. So I'm using the original as reference, but the idea is I want him to be sort of really playful, kind of like a kitten with like a ball of yarn or something. So that's why the pose is so extreme. He's on his back with his tail curled up in delight. He's gonna have his legs and arms in the air. He's got a big stupid smile on his face. Um, So yeah, right now I'm just sort of figuring out. This part actually took quite a while because I didn't quite know how I wanted the pose to be. It looked good in my head, but when I actually tried to translate it onto paper or onto the stylus, it was a little bit more difficult. And you'll see I occasionally flip back and forth between the reference material and the painting. Now I'm just liquefying, trying to get that pose right, building up some parts and removing others. What I'm doing there is I sometimes like to kind of add ribbing or textures to pieces so that people understand the form. Yeah, I can follow the line. Now I'm adding the rear hand, and the rear hand actually took a while because I didn't know exactly what position I wanted in. The original one was actually very nice, and I want something very similar in the end, but it wasn't quite what I wanted, so I do end up tweaking it a little bit. But the closer arm was perfect from the start, or at least in my opinion. Here I am bringing in the foot so that we have a better view of what's going on. And I really like the way this foot came out. It's really, I don't know, it's funny. It's got some character to it. Yeah, this is me fiddling. Look too Mickey Mouse. And this one just looks weird. Nope, see, erased it. Here I go. And I believe this is actually pretty close to the finished one, but I could be wrong. Here's me putting a helmet in. The idea is that he's sort of tossing a helmet in the air and batting at it with his hands, like a kitten would. And nope, yeah, wasn't happy with it. So painting in another one on a new layer, doing some ribbing. And at first I was thinking like maybe like how a kitten closes its paw, but it looked funny. It looked like he was like, I don't know, like watching TV and rooting for his favorite team or something. So I decided to open up the hand, and it still didn't look right. So this is why I do everything in the black and white, because there are fewer variables, as I like to think of it. Black and white's just, light and dark. I don't have to worry about the highlights or the coloring or the bounce or anything like that. Anything crazy. I believe this is actually the hand that we end up using. Yeah, this looks about right. Change the face a little bit. Oh, he's so cute. But he looks a little bit too crazy there, so I actually think I ended up fixing the eyes in a second. More ribbing. Give him some little nubs, make him look more reptilian. The original was very amphibian, and I was thinking that, as an adult, he'd be more reptilian as his scales hardened and he just, I don't know, got more badass. So now I'm sizing up the foot so that the rear foot's the right size, adding a little aerial perspective, doing some more ribbing and details, drawing in the new helmet, adding an arm, or fixing the shoulder. More ribbing. Fixing the eye position. Starting to figure out the shape of the helmet. I really wasn't quite sure what I wanted. I kind of wanted it to be like the guard helmet, but I sort of wanted a more Greco looking, like a Grecian helmet. And it looked cool, but I don't know, I felt like it was diverging too far from the established look of the guards, and that world, so I end up changing it up through many iterations. Looks pretty cool when it's done fast. It takes much longer than this in reality. So I got this nice Nordic hat or a helmet. It was just kind of boring. So I fixed up the visor, gave it a little bit of a beak, a little bit of more of a cone, and my favorite part of it. Oh no, I guess I'll come back to that later. Oh, there we go. I added these big mail flaps, like chain mail. I really like the way they came out. They give a very good motion. Now I'm adding some spine protrusions, a little debris from the helmet, using my, of course, shrapnel brush. I'm adding some scale details here. Doesn't he look funny? He's cute. I'll admit it. He's pretty cute. So I gave him little nubby teeth. He's a dragon, but he's not supposed to be a terribly scary dragon. His cuteness is supposed to belie his actual threat level. Just adding more details. Here we go. Sometimes I break up the details to make it look like scaling. I don't want my lines to be too perfect. That's what I'm doing here. Adding texture, texture, texture. I'm just adding a little like this is vein that are on a lot of reptiles that goes like it's kind of like a seam down the side of their tail. It usually goes along their legs as well. So that was what that was. I'm just doing some more neck details here and fixing the outline a little bit, cleaning stuff up. More details. And as you can see, I'm trying to hit the points where the light would be strongest, add more details there as they be more defined than they are in the shadows. So that's what's going on up here. Same here. Oh, we're checking my reference. Changing the eyes. Doesn't he look so cute? Look at those eyes. Oh, love them. Alright, now he needs something to ground him, so I added some rocks. An iterative save there. So adding more rocks. Fidgeting with the rocks, trying to get them right. More rocks. Adding some background rocks. They're faint, but they give depth, so they're important. Here I'm adding some details to the chain link. I really like doing chain link now. It's such a fun material and it has so much character in it. So part of the art description was the art description was very loose, so I kind of pitched my own idea, and the idea was that he was going to be kind of this childlike or pet-like creature that was playing with this shiny bauble while he's surrounded by like the horrors of war and like some I guess testaments to his power. So I'm adding some ribs here and a battle axe, and here are some human bones. It's pretty grisly. There's a femur. It's more bones. And in a sec, oh, there's another femur. Or, yeah, looks like a femur, I guess. Could be a humerus. I guess at that scale it has to be a femur. Ah, right. Now I'm adding just some swords to help fill in over here. And I really like designing sword hilts. At first I did this kind of nurgly one by accident, and I realized I can't do that, so I went with the kind of Teutonic Cross instead. Now, I was never given instructions whether to include religion or not. I tend to not include religious or real-world religious stuff in paintings if I can help it, but I don't feel like the cross is, in this case, that really religious looking. It's more just geometric. All right, so we're already on coloring. Coloring actually was a little bit worrying for me on this one because I had done so many details in the black and white. I wasn't quite sure how the coloring was going to go, so I just threw on a gradient, and now I'm coloring in the guy red, which is pretty basic. I'm using a color layer with a 50% brush, I believe. Nah, he was way too bright, so I went in and I did some multiply layers using a blue for blue shadows from a cool light source. Adding some face. And I have a weird process. I kind of like go back and it's the push-pull idea. I always go in, push, pull it back a little bit, push it a little bit more. I have to be careful not to get too saturated with the rear parts because aerial perspective dictates that they should be lighter. And then I just got kind of distracted and did it all in one go. Now the problem with this, as you'll imagine, is that at the bottom there's all those items at different foregrounds and levels, and that sort of gets lost a little bit, so we're gonna have to fix that later. Here's another multiply layer. I wanted to define the form still more, and I wasn't quite sure how color I wanted it to be, so I went with this pink for now, but I'm not sure if it actually stays that way. I think it gets changed. And you'll really start to see how those details I put in make a difference now, especially as I add more shading. What I do is you'll see how I'm shading it. I'm actually shading it using ribbing and texture. So each layer of shadow actually grants more texture to the piece. Yep, no respect for the foreground. Little hue shift there. Oof, that's what it looks like normally. The reason I did that was I had to grab that color, so I had to put it on a normal layer instead of a multiply. Oh, we're gonna add a little bit of fiery nose and nostrils. Now, the original Hotspark hatchling had a lot more fire on it, and the reason was it was crawling through like a forest with undergrowth. This guy is sort of in a mountainous, rocky terrain, so there's really nothing to set ablaze. So the only real sources of heat are going to be his like nostrils and mouth. So what I'm doing here is I'm just doing highlights, and as you can see, I add details with the highlights. I don't just do big swabs. I kind of chop it up, and push, pull at it. Now I'm doing the sky highlight, but I thought that was too saturated, so toned it down a little bit. Just doing some chainmail. Little scales. He's really got texture on him now. He looks kind of crocodilian. I always have to catch myself when I'm doing the edges because I always kind of want to do like this pillow shading where I just do bright to dark on the edge, and that's not actually how light works. It's going to actually be brighter sort of in the middle wherever the three-dimensional highest point is. So I always have to go back and change things because I get carried away when I do stuff. Just doing some little rim lights to make it look more realistic. He's got those great toes. very jovial. This is one of my favorite parts of the paintings, actually, his feet and his tail, the curl. And this is where it starts really being good, in my opinion, the tail anyway. There's like this nice, bounce light. There's a little bit of subsurface scattering going on. It's just starting to get there. Metal's tough to light because it's so shiny and reflective. It's just, I don't know, it's tough to get just right. And you know when it's not looking right. You gotta keep working on it. So here I'm fixing up the edges, adding a little aerial perspective. What's gonna be cool is what I do with the chainmail soon. The hand was difficult because hands are always difficult. Don't get me wrong, but the aerial perspective had to be just right. Couldn't be too strong, but it had to be, had to differentiate the fingers. It can be tough. Some breaking up the edges with some aerial perspective. It makes it more realistic. Fixing the eyes here. The eyes were kind of not quite there yet. So gave him these nice corneas. Oh, look at those eyes. He's so happy. I'm using the custom brush by Darken here, just to give it a little bit of a texture. And here I paint in actual loops by hand. I always think that it just makes chainmail look so much more real, you know what I mean? And actually, I shouldn't have done that. I just painted out the back of the helmet, but it's fine, I guess. These are like ear flaps more than a neck flap. Who knows? Maybe they're up. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it at this point. Oh, more layers. Doing another multiply layer. The contrast wasn't strong enough, and just, a layer, an adjustment layer is not always the answer. Sometimes you do have to go in and do the work. Fixing those teeth. They were just a little bit loose before. Now they're nice and pointy, sharp. Fixing some of the highlights around the eyes. They were a little bit too much. Making those eyes really pop out of the. They look like there's some depth there, like they're socketed. Here I'm painting in some more loops. And let's fix up some of these little patterns around the mouth. More teeth. Tweaking, always tweaking. Alright, time to add some highlights to all that foreground stuff. If I had been more careful, I wouldn't have had to do this, but it's alright. Now, right now they look really cold, like they're just sort of derelict. And that would have been okay, but when I have an opportunity for fire, when I have an opportunity to paint fire, I should say, I usually put it. Now, I actually kind of really liked the way they looked, but it was sort of too much of the same. The color was really nice, but it just wasn't. There wasn't enough variation, and there was really no way to do it with what I had going on. Man, this does look nice, though. I did like that. Maybe another time I'll keep it simple. Because it looks right, don't get me wrong. But then, of course, I was thinking, well, he's a hot guy. And by hot guy, I mean he's several hundred degrees Fahrenheit. So I figured, why not? He'll be setting the ground on fire around himself. Just breaking up some of the original brush strokes and adding some details here. Breaking up the outline that I just messed with. Some more bounce. Now, of course, what did you think was going to happen? Well, I'll give you a hint. Fire. Well, you can see how I paint fire. up close and personal. I got some very nice comments on DeviantArt about the way I paint fire, so thank you. I either try to go one or two ways with fire. One is photorealistic, and the other is sort of just human eye painterly style. Now, I don't know why people do this, but when you paint fire, fire, you have to think of fire as a gas. It's a gas that is expending energy, and as it is destroyed, it releases light, and that's all that. Oh, light and heat. That's all that fire really is. But so when you paint it, think of it like if you were to pour out a gas or release a gas quickly, what would it look like? Also, when coloring fire, and I hate when people do this, the hotter the flame is, the brighter it is, and the closer it gets to the blue side of the spectrum versus the red side. So what I'm doing now is I'm just, sorry to break the narration, but I'm just doing some highlights on the bottom from the fire because there would be lots of highlights on him if the fire is really bright. So fire, generally speaking, from hottest is white, then yellow, then orange, then red. Some really intense flames will be blue, but that's like only really clean flames like methane or extremely hot fire. What I'm doing now is I'm masking it so that it follows the natural lighting pattern. I just add some reticulation to add some extra detail. Things are going to go fast now because I'm not spending as much detail time. I'm just sort of throwing down crap. And of course, I have to break this all up. It's too regular. Pretty sneaky. Alright, time for some, yeah, that didn't work. I tried doing hue colors, but it just didn't work. Or hue layers, I should say, I'm sorry. Time to add some sparks using the my custom brushes. And just some embers, like some really hot parts here and there, and a little bit of highlighting. Just makes it pop a little bit better. Here I'm adding some little sizzling sparks. A little bit of highlighting. I'm fixing the background here. Just adding some distant mountainy peaks. Here I'm adding some overlay layers to add some natural glow. Just using gradient and an overlay layer. Getting my signature. Just painting in, making it look nice and hot. I know I spent a lot of time on the signature. I probably shouldn't. I probably should just do like white or something, but I can't help it. I'm doing some adjustment layers to balance it out. And I think that's it. Thanks for watching.